Welcome to today's podcast segment, Bite-Sized Justice, Tackling Food Insecurity, where we'll delve into the pressing issue of food insecurity and its intersectionality within marginalized communities. I'm your host, Yas Jawad, and in this episode, we're going to explore the complex web of factors that contribute to food insecurity and its impacts on vulnerable communities. Food insecurity, as we know it, is an increasingly pressing issue that affects communities and individuals globally, specifically impacting marginalized communities in detrimental ways. Food insecurity is defined as the inability to acquire or consume an adequate diet, quality, or sufficient quantity of food in socially acceptable ways, or the uncertainty that one will be able to do so. Food insecurity is a complex and comprehensive issue that intersects with various forms of oppression, which further exacerbate its effects on vulnerable communities and individuals. This intersectionality, a term that represents the interconnected nature of social categorizations and characteristics, such as class, gender, race, ability, and many more, highlight the complexities of addressing food insecurity within marginalized communities. So why is this important? Understanding how these various intersecting factors perpetuate inequities into their access to food is crucial for developing more effective and efficient policies that are aimed towards promoting food justice and alleviating food insecurity among the most vulnerable groups and individuals within our society. Begin by delving into recent statistics and data found on insecurity. So recent data and statistics reveal harsh disparities among different demographic groups, highlighting the multifaceted nature of this issue. Affordability, accessibility, nutritional quality, cultural relevance, and social stigma are things that all contribute to the complex issue of food insecurity. For marginalized communities, these challenges are often amplified with limited access to affordable, nutritious, or culturally relevant food options due to various factors such as income inequality, geographic location, and discriminatory policies and practices within our food systems. Studies found that Black communities are more likely to face hunger. In fact, in 2022, nearly 23% of Black people in the United States experienced food insecurity. This is almost 2.5 times the rate of white people, which was information conducted by Feeding America. Another study conducted in Canada by the Canadian Income Survey found that the proportion of families who were food insecure in the 12 months preceding the survey increased from 16% in 2021 to 18% in 2022. Among those at the highest risk of food insecurity were single mothers, Indigenous families, and Black families. We're now going to jump into an intersectional analysis of all of this. So an intersectional analysis of food insecurity in marginalized communities helps better explain how intersectionality contributes to food insecurity in marginalized communities. So the concept of intersectionality provides a critical lens to help understand the comprehensive dynamics of food insecurity, particularly focusing on marginalized communities. So by analyzing how these various intersecting identities, including race, gender, socioeconomic status, ability, sexual orientation, faith, intersect to shape individuals' experiences, we can better understand the systemic inequalities and power dynamics that contribute to this gap that we see within our food system and food access for marginalized communities. For example, racial minorities and low-income individuals are disproportionately affected by food insecurity due to various structural barriers such as systemic racism and economic inequality. Additionally, non-able-bodied individuals may face other hurdles in accessing nutritious food due to physical or logistical barriers at play. And the relationship between disability and food insecurity may reflect the fact that disabled people are at a higher risk of socioeconomic disadvantage and exclusion due to the facing significant barriers of education, work, and adequate income and financial security. So by exploring these kind of intersecting factors and identities, we can better understand how these social injustices perpetuate food insecurity within marginalized communities and hopefully develop more effective strategies to address the root causes of food insecurity while trying to promote more equitable access for people all over the world. So moving on to our next segment of the podcast, I'll be discussing different frameworks and concepts that further perpetuate food insecurity in marginalized communities. And so to comprehensively analyze the intersectionality of food insecurity, it's important to grasp certain frameworks and concepts from the field of social justice and equity. So drawing upon theories such as social determinants of health, critical race theory, feminist theory, and disability studies provides valuable insights into the multifaceted nature of food access and vulnerability. For instance, the social determinants of health framework highlight how factors such as socioeconomic status, education, and housing contribute to disparities in food access and various health outcomes. Critical race theory also sheds light on how systemic racism and discrimination are interconnected with one another and other forms of oppression to help perpetuate inequalities within the food access among racialized individuals. And then another one is feminist race theory. So feminist theory emphasizes the gender dimensions of food insecurity, exploring how traditional gender roles and power dynamics shape individuals' experiences and access to resources. An example of this is a study that was conducted on food insecurity as assessed by the Household Food Security Survey model, which was more prevalent among households with lower income adequacy and those reliant on social assistance and those headed by a female lone parent. Disability studies also offer important perspectives on how physical and cognitive disabilities intersect with societal barriers to limit access to food and nutrition service. In terms of mobility, research indicates that having a disability, including those that do not relate to mobility, often result in decreased access to food and an increased chance of food insecurity. And so, why is this important? Again, by applying these various concepts and frameworks through an equity, diversity, social justice, and inclusion lens, we can help gain a deeper understanding of the root causes of food insecurity and hopefully develop a more inclusive and equitable solution in the future to help address these pressing issues. And now we'll be jumping into the impact of structural inequalities and inequities. And so structural inequities play a pivotal role in exacerbating these disparities in food access and help perpetuate food insecurity within marginalized communities. So the relationship between race and ethnicity and food insecurity is complex and is clearly intertwined with other established determinants of food insecurity, including things such as poverty, unemployment, incarceration, and disability. And residential segregation, for example, often focuses on marginalized communities in areas with limited access to grocery stores and fresh produce, which creates what is commonly referred to as a food desert. And so that is the lack of access to healthy foods in these communities, which translates to health disparities and high rates of chronic diseases. Additionally, the lack of adequate transportation infrastructure further perpetuates this issue, making it difficult for individuals to travel to areas with better food access. Another factor that helps contribute to the physical access to food is mobility and access to transportation. If individuals or families have mobility issues and or a lack of access to transportation, they may not be able to access food assets even if they are spatially proximate to the area. Environmental racism is another important thing to take into consideration here. It further exacerbates these disparities by locating polluting industries and hazardous waste sites disproportionately in these marginalized neighborhoods or communities, which further contributes to health problems and reduces the availability of healthy food options within their location. And so systemic factors not only limit an individual's physical access to nutritious food, but also perpetuate socioeconomic inequalities, trapping marginalized communities in cycles of poverty and food insecurity. And so addressing these structural inequities is essential for trying to promote food justice and ensuring that all individuals have equitable access to the resources necessary for a healthy and sustainable lifestyle. And so now I'm going to touch upon some community responses and solutions that could be done. So a variety of community responses and solutions are really important to implement when attempting to rectify the issue at hand. Various grassroots initiatives and community-based organizations are important components in the fight against food insecurity and the promotion of food justice within marginalized communities. These initiatives often emerge from within the surplus of marginalized communities, driven by a deep understanding of local needs and challenges. For example, the Mobile Food Market Initiative was successfully implemented in Halifax and brought fresh produce directly to neighborhoods with limited access to grocery stores, addressing transportation barriers and also increasing food access for residents who are often underrepresented or underserved. Similarly, there's organizations like Hope Blooms, which empower youth from marginalized communities to grow and sell their own produce at the Hope Blooms Farm Market, and that helps promote food sovereignty and economic empowerment. And so these kind of initiatives not only provide tangible solutions to food insecurity, but they also offer a sense of community and foster a sense of resilience and connection. Additionally, collaborative efforts are very important between grassroots organizations and policymakers and other stakeholders. It's essential for challenging the kinds of systemic barriers that are in place when aiding in the building of more equitable food systems. And so, by highlighting and touching upon these examples of community resilience and collaborative efforts that have been done, hopefully we can inspire others to take action and work towards a future where access to healthy food is a fundamental right for individuals and not a luxury. So, to conclude today's podcast, we're going to wrap our discussion by delving into the key takeaways from our analysis. So, we've discussed the intricate web of factors that contribute to food insecurity, and it's pretty crystal clear that a one-size-fits-all approach simply doesn't cut it at this point. So, you may be asking, what's the verdict? Well, my findings highlight the importance of adopting an intersectional lens to food insecurity. So try to picture a holistic approach that not only acknowledges but prioritizes the diverse needs and experiences of marginalized individuals and communities. That's the path forward from here. No more small band-aid fixes or temporary solutions. We need inclusivity at every point of this process, and it's time to recognize that food insecurity isn't just about calories and nutrition. It's deeper than that, and it's about systemic barriers, social injustices, and it's deeply rooted in inequalities. But fear not, because where there's a problem, there's also an opportunity for change where people want to take leadership. So that's a wrap for today, folks. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, change starts with us. Until next time, stay informed, stay compassionate, and stay hungry for justice. This was Bite-Sized Justice, Tackling Food Insecurity, and I'm signing off.